Well, we hit a hot button on last week's Everything Arrowhead podcast, so we thought we'd stick with that theme and continue it. JD, the whole discussion on the flock camera things in the community, that kicked off a discussion on the Everything Arrowhead Facebook page. We truly appreciate you sharing your comments, keeping it civil. But it seems that some people seem to think that you and I are some kind of experts.
Yeah. Boy, did they get that wrong.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. We are not experts. We put on this little podcast and hopefully bring some information to the folks that listen. But our podcast did catch the attention of Vice Mayor Lauren Tolmachoff, and they reached out. Her and Brian Kelly, the vice president of the Arrowhead Lakes HOA, said, "Hey, we'd like to clarify some things. We'd like to come on the podcast and clear things up." And I mean, that's great. Yeah. So we're going to have them on.
Yeah, I know. I think this is a great opportunity. We can, you and I can definitely learn more about these systems and how they can help try to keep things safer here in the neighborhoods. And we can also maybe get some questions answered for the people that are in the community that may still not be fully on board with these flock camera systems.
Yeah, and thank you to the folks who did post your questions on the Everything Arrowhead Facebook page. We are going to put those questions to Lauren and Brian. And I mean, at this point, JD, there's really nothing more to do than to bring Lauren and Brian on the show.
Let's get into it.
Thank you guys for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us. Happy to be here.
All right. So the conversation of the flock cameras got going on our podcast last week. JD and I were really kind of having an off the cuff conversation about it because I live in phase 1 and I had recently seen the cameras going up on the poles there. And I was like, okay, we're doing this thing. I'm okay with it, but I do have questions. And so do some of our Everything Arrowhead Facebook users. So why don't we just start off by telling our viewers who may not know, what is a flock camera?
So a flock camera is basically it's referred to as an LPR or a license plate reader. And it is a camera that it does not take video, contrary to popular belief. It only takes photos. It is triggered by cars passing by it, in particular triggered by the license plate. And it takes a photograph of the rear of the vehicle where the license plate is. If you notice, when you see them, they are not facing where they take the photograph of the front of the car. They only take a photograph of the back of the car as it passes by going past the camera there. And so what that does is it records that and takes that photograph and puts it into their system where that information remains for 30 days. And at the end of 30 days, it's dumped if it's not requested to be retained by a law enforcement agency. And that information then is used by law enforcement for a number of reasons. But first and foremost is when a car passes by that is already in the National Crime Information System or in the Arizona Crime Information System as being wanted for something, that car, that triggers an automatic notice to the Glendale Police Department, Real-Time Crime Center, or whatever agency may have access to if it's in a different jurisdiction or whatever. It notifies the Real-Time Crime Center here in Glendale immediately that car wanted vehicle has just passed by that camera, and gives them the ability then to alert patrol officers to that area to try and locate that vehicle and for whatever reason it may be wanted for.
So lean into that a little bit more. Would something give me an idea of a case where that might be used? Are we talking like a silver alert where?
It could be a silver alert. They're looking for that vehicle for that silver alert. It could also be something much more nefarious. We had one pass by our cameras not long after they went in. Car was taken in a carjacking in Las Vegas where there was a shooting involved. The car came into our neighborhood. The police department was notified. They came in looking for the vehicle, found out that, in fact, it was at one of our residents, and that the people actually were living here in Arrowhead Lakes. And the SWAT team came in because they were armed suspects, taking in, like I say, an armed carjacking. And they brought the SWAT team in, they arrested the suspects and crime solved.
Give us some idea of how this is working in the Arrowhead Lakes community, because you have had it now for more than a year, right? Maybe 2 years?
Right. We've had it almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years. So people are wondering, okay, you've got it, you've had it now, it's been in place for a while. What is it doing to the community?
Everybody seems to be pretty happy with them. We've had no complaints about anybody feeling like their privacy was violated in any way. We have solved, had crimes that have been solved with the use of the cameras. And we can say that, according to Commander Waite of the Glendale Police Department, who's the area commander for our area, that our crime rate in the Arrowhead Lakes subdivision is down somewhere between 23 and 25% since the cameras went in. Not that we had a large crime rate, but it did decrease by that amount. And some of that we have to believe is due to the cameras, because they're not just about solving the crime. They're just about apprehending people. They're also about deterrence. And because if you can prevent a crime in your neighborhood, that's better than solving a crime in your neighborhood.
I think one of the mistakes people are making is they think they're cameras and that it's actual real surveillance, and it's really just capturing only just the license plate. It's triggered by the car going by, so it doesn't do anything other than capture the rear picture of a car. If somebody that lives in Arrowhead Lakes, where they have the cameras, wants to opt their license plates out of the system, you can do that. So, I mean, if somebody says, I'm absolutely opposed to this, they don't have to participate. They still get the benefit. I believe it's a benefit of having the system in where they live.
And one of the reasons we encourage people not to opt out is because, let's assume for a minute, your car is the one that gets stolen and you've opted out. That's one reason. So he goes into another neighborhood that has flock safety cameras, or another area that's has license plate readers, and it's opted out of that. Those didn't do you much good. And the other is that I can tell you from my experience in law enforcement that the majority of crimes that occur in your neighborhood, burglaries, for example, car burglaries, things like that, they are more often than not, the suspects are either from that same neighborhood or from a neighborhood close by.
We had a car stolen out of our garage in phase 2 that was, the garage door didn't close. The key was in the car. It was a good opportunity for somebody going by. And the car ended up at a vacant home that was for sale in Arrowhead Lakes. So if the cameras had been around then, I mean, we still found it, figured it out the same day. It's a longer story, but it probably would have been discovered right away. So interesting to look back and now having a better understanding of how these systems work, see that would have been an instance where it would have been very useful.
Well, like I like to point out to people with the license plate readers, just from the standpoint of notifying the police department of a wanted vehicle, not the investigative side, but just that from that standpoint, when that car that's wanted for some heinous crime or even a smaller crime of a burglary or whatever passes by that camera into your neighborhood, who's going to call the police? Who's going to call the police in the first minute after that car passes into your neighborhood? No one, because you won't even know that it's there. And it's not going to be a live security guard that you have driving around, because he's not going to know that car's wanted either. And that's provided that security guard's awake. And that's one of the great things about the cameras is they never sleep.
Tara Lynn on our Facebook page had a good question, and she asks, if Glendale PD has access to these cameras, then why does the HOA have to pay? Can you explain how the finances of this system works?
The city of Glendale cannot afford to put license plate readers over the entire city. And they can't just go pick one neighborhood and go, oh, we're going to do this neighborhood. Well, then what about the rest of the city? So it became up to the individual subdivision or area to decide that they wanted to do this.
I've been to a few public meetings and I've had people ask me about this exact question. And I think we're fortunate up in Arrowhead Ranch to have HOAs. We have the organization. We have the benefit of having an organization to work with Flock and deploy the cameras, work on getting it set up. We don't have that kind of system throughout the city. We've just got streets with no HOA, there's no organized authority, and nobody has had to increase their dues. I mean, as Brian said, I think it comes out to about $30 per household per year.
40.
I mean,
About $40 a year.
40.
So
Okay.
it was $45,000 just last year, and we have 1,063 homes. So you can do the math. And the article that was in the newspaper was incorrect when it said it was $100 a home. That's not correct, and that's per year.
Got it. And that
So
can change
nobody's had to
depending on the
increase
size
their
of the
dues.
neighborhood too, right? The amount of people that are in a
Yeah.
neighborhood, that could change.
Amount of people, the number of entrances and exits, so the number of cameras that you
Yeah.
have. We have 6.
Yeah, they have a lot of entrances. I know phase 2 was a lot less than that. And phase 1, that phase 1 voted it in by the the residents they had a vote of the residents. Phase 2 had a board vote that you saw failed, or I think it was 3-2 or 2-2, and it failed 2-2. And I believe in phase 2, that was right around $30 a year, because they don't have as much ingress egress in that community, so they didn't need as many cameras. So it depends on the number of cameras. I don't think anybody's going to have more than probably Arrowhead Lakes does. But I mean, it's really a nominal cost, honestly. At least that's my belief. I know people may disagree with me. For the peace of mind and the safety of knowing that if a car wanted in an armed carjacking, and that's what that was in Arrowhead Lakes, or an armed robbery, or they chase somebody off the freeway and they drive into a neighborhood, you're going to know, as Ryan said, immediately, the police department's going to know where that car is.
Lauren, from the perspective of the city, how helpful is this for communities like the Lakes and Arrowhead Ranch to opt into something like this to help build out a network? What's the long-term goal from the city's point of view?
The city has deployed a lot of them. You've probably seen them at intersections out on arterial streets where they've deployed the license plate readers. There's also surveillance. We all know that at major intersections, there's surveillance there for a variety of reasons. For if there's an accident or a crime, there's been pedestrian accidents and other things where the the real camera. But you'll notice more and more plate readers being deployed throughout the city, and really throughout all of Maricopa County. A lot of cities are starting to do this, because it is a really good tool for law enforcement, because it's impossible to have enough people, law enforcement officers, everywhere all the time. Your license plate's already part of a public database. I mean, it's not like your license plate is, something you can keep in your wallet and only show people you want to see it. I mean, it's on the back of your car. As Brian said, anyone can see it.
But there is some issues where this information has either leaked or gotten out or been misused. I think some of the residents would like to know what can be done to prevent something like that.
In every aspect of life, there's that possibility that someone will misuse information. I mean, we could come right down to people like yourself with a podcast. You could misuse your position just like an officer could. You could misuse your position as a podcaster to put out misinformation. Mm-hmm. And so there's always that possibility. And I don't think you can stop trying to prevent crime and using the system because you're fearful of the rare occasion somewhere in this country where someone has misused information. And that's why Glendale PD has, and the city of Glendale, vetted Flock to make sure that their information systems were secure, at least from the outside, as best as possible. But you can never prevent the possibility of someone misusing. That's the reason, for example, that Arrowhead Lakes HOA, we chose not to have any access to the system. When we signed up, we created a password. I read it off to someone at Glendale PD, and I didn't even write it down. I have no idea what that password is. They probably changed it by now. And in fact, I hope they have.
One thing that came to mind for me is Flock using the data of, patterns of how people move or this or that, and using that information in a similar manner to the grocery stores. Is there?
They don't store the information long enough to be able to create any kind of pattern, though.
Okay.
I mean, every 30 days it's dumped and recycled, so it's on a rolling 30-day. So like day 31 of Arrowhead Lakes dumped off today. So I mean,
Sure.
it just continues to roll through a 30-day. So there's not enough data there. I mean, and I can't imagine somebody would be able to figure out any way to make money on a license plate data that
Yeah,
was,
it's
every 30. And I get it. I mean, and we all have these.
oh yeah, we
If we want to use the coupons, we're willing to, to save a little bit of money here, a little bit of money there. And they keep giving you more coupons because they know you're going to spend more money. I think that they've done enough research to understand, what people's habits are. So, but I don't think, for me anyway, I don't believe this falls into that category.
I think somebody did ask on the Facebook page about how the information is used, other than the we were talking about where they instantly notifies the police department, and that would be the investigative phase. And if you're when you're ready, I'd like to address that issue.
Sure, go for it.
So, in about 85% of criminal cases now, one of the places that a good investigator always looks is to the license plate reader system, because let's say, for example, and I'll give you an example here in Arrowhead Lakes that was pretty prolific, actually. We had a construction trailer parked out front of one of our residents' homes. The contractor left it there overnight. During the nighttime, the trailer was hooked up to and stolen, and they captured it on license plate readers going out, and found that it was being towed by a U-Haul pickup truck. So they went back to the license plate reader system to look and see when that truck came into the neighborhood, found it, got the license plate, which they couldn't get off of the U-Haul truck from the photograph of the back of the trailer because the trailer was blocking that. They put that information into the system, and by the time this investigation was going on, they put this information in the system and discovered that the highway patrol, who have license plate readers in their cars, by the way, had seen that vehicle and had recorded that license plate on Interstate 10 down by Avondale. So they started looking at a little deeper into the system. There are license plate readers down in the Avondale area, and they found this truck parked at a motel. By then, they had stripped the U-Haul stickers off of the truck. It was a stolen U-Haul, by the way. So they did surveillance. They followed them. They recovered the trailer. They recovered all the tools. They arrested. They served 3 search warrants, arrested 2 people, one of which was a very prolific burglar that they had been looking for and trying to get for quite a while. So all of that happened within 36 hours because of the license plate reader system.
Okay, I'm impressed.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. I mean, they arrested someone that had shot at a trooper on the highway and had passed through our neighborhood. And they picked him up on the cameras here, alerted him where he was then, and because they had a license plate for him. And so they were able to find and arrest that individual. And the Department of Public Safety recently asked for access to our camera system, and we granted that. So they also have access in addition to the Glendale Police Department.
Guys, I thank you so much for your time. I'll ask any of you if you have any further questions, JD, or if Lauren or Brian have anything that they want to add that we didn't think to ask.
Well, I do want to say that one of our goals is, and I've tried to work with some of the other Arrowhead areas, and one of our goals is to try and get as many neighborhoods in the area up here who have HOAs to do the same thing, because the larger we can make that, we're trying to harden the target, so to speak, right? So our neighborhood being the target, we got Mohawk, which is adjacent to us. They now have them. Phase 1 has them. We're hoping phase 2 will do whatever they need to do to get them, because the bigger we can make that area and deter people from coming into this area for nefarious reasons, then the better off we are. And the more crime we can prevent in this area, the more the police department can concentrate in other areas to work and prevent crime there. So it is a benefit to the city ultimately. And if you'll notice, and she mentioned that they're everywhere, you'll notice Home Depots are putting them up now. The Home Depot at 59th Avenue Beardsley has them all around their parking lot now.
Yeah.
I would. We've got two realtors on the show here today.
Brian's a realtor too.
Oh wow. Okay. Well,
yeah.
I would look at this and say, if these neighborhoods are safe. And when people go looking for a home, I did when I bought here, I looked at the public crime rates. I was looking at the crime map, and I'm like, okay, this looks like a pretty safe neighborhood. So I have to imagine that if the cameras are providing another layer of safety, then that could impact the value of all of our homes.
I think Arrowhead at times is an easy target because it's so close to the 101. You can go into any of our neighborhoods and, commit a crime, and in 2 or 3 minutes, you're back on the 101, heading far away from here. So I think it's a good idea.
I mean, and some of the people say, well, Arrowhead is safe. Well, yes, Arrowhead is safe, especially compared to maybe other parts of other, places around the valley, as far as the crime rate. And most of the stuff that happens up here is property crime. There are more serious crimes that do happen everywhere. But I mean, the last thing you want to be as a citizen is complacent in your feeling of being safe. So, I mean, this is another layer, as you said, another layer that gives you a little bit more, security. Obviously, you still have to do all the things you would do, be aware, and all the things that are important. But, I mean, a lot of times people just fall into this, belief that crime could never happen here. And that's just not true.
That was awesome. I'm so glad we did that. I have a much better understanding of what these cameras do. I mean, I feel pretty good about it. How about you, JD?
No, I'm now slightly more educated than I was last week, so I'm partially smarter. So
yeah, and hopefully the viewers are too. Hopefully our listeners got a lot out of that. And if there are any more questions, seriously, Lauren and Brian said they would answer them. So go ahead and put them in the chat under the comments under our YouTube video, or here on the Everything Arrowhead Facebook page, wherever. Just reach out to us and we'll hopefully get those questions answered for you.
Yeah, that was, for them to take the time on short notice. I mean, this all kind of came together on Saturday. Here it's Monday evening, and they're giving us the time to help us educate everybody else in the neighborhood. So that was great.
Yep. Cool, man. Well, thanks for helping put this together. And thank you to everybody who does listen to our podcast. We are small, we are growing, and we hope to continue to bring valuable information to everybody who's a part of the Everything Arrowhead community. So don't forget to check out everythingarrowhead.com and find everything you need there, events, restaurants, and information on community safety. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time.